Hello everybody, welcome back to another Drive With Me video. I live in Ontario, and so this is what Ontario looks like right now. Sometimes it would be freezing until May. I remember in 2019, my sister, my best friend, and my parents, we went to a Strokes concert. It was May, the end of May, and it was so cold, but no, this year has been pretty warm. On my last video, I asked everybody to leave comments on what they would like for me to cover in these chatty videos that are project related, so not craft related questions, and I got some great suggestions, but particularly I got a question about how did you create your characters from Fostered, and when did they become real to you? Why have you stuck with them for so long and told their story for so long? So let's talk about Harrison and Lonan, who are the characters from Feeding Habits. They've been in the Fostered series, which, if you're new to my channel, Fostered is a series I've been writing for about 7 years now. It is 6 books in the main series, and then there's a spin-off called the Mothwork series, and the Mothwork series right now is 2 books. The only person from the 2 of them, so between Lonan and Harrison, that existed first was Harrison. So a little bit of a backstory on how I got started writing Fostered. So I was in grade 8. I had just turned 13. I had been grappling with 2 ideas for a while. I had gotten a dream of this sequence, and it took place in my house. This happens often. I often dream with things that take place in places that I've been. I saw this image of a girl, and she had run into what would be my parents' bathroom, and she was being chased by something, and the other people who she needed to protect were in what would be my room, but she was all alone in there, didn't know what was going to happen to her friends. I had also had another idea that was also from a dream. It was like a zombie apocalypse, except the zombies derived from bees. So in order to turn people into zombies, you would inject them with a device with some sort of bee venom or something. It was weird. Anyway, so I was really drawn to the zombie idea because it was more fleshed out. I had more plot ideas. So I started writing the zombie book, and I just kind of threw it away. I didn't end up really finishing it. And so I guess a few weeks later, it was October 2nd, and it was maybe 8:46 p.m. I really remember this memory vividly. I remember I had written the opening of Fostered, and I felt something when I was writing it, but at the same time, I was feeling a little bit insecure. And I was like, I don't know if I like this. I don't know if I'm going to continue this. And so I was hesitant. I turned it to my sister, and I let her read it, and she loved it. And the reason she loved it is because she loved Harrison. So that circles us back to conversation about Harrison. Harrison in the first chapter of Fostered. One day, I think I am going to try to show you how I would edit that chapter. So Harrison is very sassy and protective in that first chapter. He is the leader of his little ragtag group. He has his best friend Foster, and then a younger girl. She's 6 years old. Her name is Essie. He's really protective, particularly of this little girl, and Reeve, who's the main character, intrudes on them. Reeve comes across an abandoned storage unit and stoops into it looking for shelter, not knowing that there's already 3 people inside, and right before she got there, somebody was shot and killed. So Harrison is really irritated the whole first chapter and really doesn't want to hear any of Reeve's shit. He's also confused why she doesn't recognize him, because they were in a foster home together back when they were kids, but there was an explosion. She doesn't remember anything. She's selective amnesia. She is not remembering anything about that. So he's very distrustful of her, and he continues to be that way for a majority of the book. That's how I created Harrison. He really kept the story going. I think he became really real to me recently. In Feeding Habits, chapter 6, I got to really see him as a human being, and I had written an entire book in his point of view, and I just don't think I felt him the way that I felt him until I got to Feeding Habits, when I got to see him and how lonely and how sad he can be. Obviously, he's been real to me for many years, but in a different way, I think, in a more adult way in Feeding Habits, where, we're past the pubescence and the adolescent feelings, and we're into a little bit more mature feelings. Lonan is kind of a different story. Keeping in mind, I started Fostered, the first book, in October of 2014. I finished it in very early January. Fostered was supposed to be one book. It was supposed to be a standalone. I had written the last line thinking it was going to be the last time I'd written with these characters, but it was a few days after I'd finished book 1 that I got this vision of 2 characters. The first character was this girl, and she was pretty like gloomy looking, honestly. Long, straight, black hair. That girl ended up being Foster, who I mentioned before, his sister, his kind of like evil older sister, who's an antagonist in book 2. The second character that came to me was this kid who looks pretty intense, really short, like a buzz cut hair, like a big black watch, heavy duty looking dude, you know? Don't mess with that guy. And that guy ended up, that's so funny to say out loud, being Lonan. I was really compelled by these 2 characters, but particularly this dude. I had to write another book. I was like, they're the antagonists. And so Lonan began as an antagonist in Fostered. A lot of people probably won't know that, obviously, because he's the protagonist now in Feeding Habits, but he was an antagonist for all of book 2. Book 3, for about the first few chapters, he is still pretty horrible. So basically book 2, Harrison has joined the quote-unquote government to protect Foster and Reeve. They don't know that. They probably think he's being a bit of a double agent. At least Reeve thinks that. Lonan like hires him onto this team, which is kind of funny when you think about that. Lonan is trying to hunt Foster and Reeve with the help of Harrison, and then Harrison like double crosses Lonan, and then so Lonan and Holly, who is Foster's older sister, now hunting all 3 of them. So he was an antagonist. He did some horrible things, you know, typical 2015 angsty YA sequel kind of vibes. And then in book 3, the whole squad, so Foster, Reeve, Harrison, are all kind of captured. Lonan catches up to them. He finds them all. He's like, I am the government, so I'm going to, you know, you're going to live a miserable life under my reign now. And so they're all like prisoners in book 3, living in the government. Literally, it's a building. Lonan at the beginning of book 3 has employed Reeve to be an executioner because he wants to like torture her mentally because he's a horrible person. And then and this is obviously when the book was heavily dystopian. Obviously, Lonan's not doing that in early 21st century New York City. Reeve has this mental breakdown at the beginning of book 3. She's not doing well. Obviously, this job is hard on her. In general, she's being secluded and isolated from her friends. Lonan's not letting her see them. And so she has a mental breakdown. And he, for some reason, has this connection to her at that point. She manages to get into his head. She convinces him to give Foster and Harrison a job. And so she's like, because you killed your whole team, because Lonan killed his entire team in book 2. So she's like, you need a team, so hire them. And so they get hired on, and that's kind of the beginning of Lonan's redemption arc, because they kind of make friends. So he goes from a villain basically in book 2 to an anti-hero in book 3, and he goes through his whole redemption arc. It's the best part of Fostered. It's my favorite part of Fostered. Then he's a good guy. Lonan has gone through a lot, clearly, as a character. Particularly, I've loved seeing him grow as a person and just seeing him evolve as the books evolve, and he felt so real to me. There's a scene in book 3 where he has an alcohol problem in book 3 that eventually shifts into a drug problem later down the line, but he has an alcohol problem in book 3. Reeve kind of finds him like having a bit of a breakdown. That is like the most raw I think I had seen until that point. That was the moment where I was like, oh my god, that is the character. This is him. And he's been pretty similar, not in the terms of mental breakdowns, but I guess we can also say that he's been similar ever since. And so why have I stuck to this story for so long? I just love telling it. And in a writing update that I will upload soon, I actually started crying. Like, I had to cut out a lot of it because it was bad. I was like sobbing on camera about finishing Fostered. I don't think people have this experience all that often. It's very rare, and I'm very grateful for it. I literally grew up writing these books. Obviously, not many 13-year-old girls are writing 600,000 words a year, and I was at the time. I don't know how the hell I did that. Fostered is about 1 million words of work. It's just been something that I've poured myself into, that I've grown up with. It's changed genres, it's changed characters, it's changed so many things, and it's changed me. and I couldn't be more grateful to a project. I feel incredibly blessed to be the writer of these books. So that's going to be it for this chatty video. I hope you guys enjoyed another drive with me, and I will talk to you in another one. Bye!